All right. So as Hugh said, so we've been going through this series. Everyone's a witness, and the goal for this conversation that we're about to have is essentially to share the joys and no doubt the challenges of sharing our faith, witnessing at work. And so I've got these lovely people, Adi, Lucy, and Joel, to share their experience of doing this. This is a topic close to my heart and one that I am not particularly good at, just to be clear. So these guys are going to help share their experience. But I made an executive decision just before we came on, which is that we're going to get the church involved as well. It is risky, and the elders will probably fire me. So this may be the last time I am up here. So I've asked Josh to pass the microphone. All I will ask is that you make your point short and to the point. Otherwise, we're going to be here all night and then just go to work from here, tomorrow. No, we're not going to do that. Okay, so just by the way of introduction, we've been going through this. We've been, going through this series, talking about witnessing and the workplace, and by that I mean what we do, which we define very, very broadly. So, in other words, volunteering, even if you're retired. Interaction with people, I guess, in a work or work-like setting, business, we're defining this very, very broadly and not restricting it to just the office or the hospital or the school, as the case might be. So we're defining it broadly. Here's a question for us. Can you guess what proportion of our waking hours do we spend at work on average in Britain? What percentage of our waking hours? 50 hours a week. You're the statistician. Tell me. Sorry? 20%. So 20% of waking hours will be the 40. Yeah, you worked in the city. Okay, nationally, it's about 25% of our waking hours that we spend at work. It excludes the time that you spend driving, back and forth. So once you add all of that to it, probably, a third of your waking hours we spend at work. That's a lot. That's a lot of time. So can I just, let's start with our panel. Give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself, what you do, and then we can go from there.
Right. My name is... Right. Adele Naiko is my name, and I'm a teacher of mathematics. I work Monday to Wednesday. In school. It's a very tedious Monday to Wednesday teaching Key Stage 4 students. What does that really mean? It means year 10 and year 11, preparing them for GCSE exams. And
Thank you.
That takes my time. Yes.
Hi, I'm Joel. I am a financial advisor. So I work in a firm in Suffolk, and I look after clients basically to help them navigate money confidently and plan for retirement. That's my main goal.
Hello, I'm Lucy. I'm a school nurse, so my background is I'm a paediatric nurse by training, and I'm currently working in school nursing, which is a difficult job title because it doesn't really explain what I do. I'm not a knit nurse. I'm not giving immunisations. I can give you advice on how to manage knits if you want it, but I'm not looking at picking other children's and people's. Anyway, yeah. So we help to deliver the Healthy Child programme after the health visitors have kind of finished doing that 0 to 5 with 5 to 19 practitioners delivering that. So yeah, we can ask more questions after about the ins and outs, but yeah.
All right, good, thank you. And I'm Abraham. I work in financial services. I run a company of about 100 people in financial services. So Joel and I do bump into each other from time to time. Okay, so the first question for you guys is, how do you approach work and faith? In other words, are you active? The word I'm looking for is are you public about your faith at work? Are there constraints that stops you from sharing your faith at work? How do you approach work and faith to start with?
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, as a nurse, I'm under a code of conduct, NMC code of conduct. So that kind of is the underpinning of all us nurses. So that is something I have to think about when I'm at work. That doesn't mean I'm not open about my faith, but it does mean there's ways of thinking about that. And the way that I've I've been qualified for nearly 16 years now, and there's lots to talk about in terms of the experience you gain as a practitioner and how to communicate in the workplace, just from being a very newly qualified nurse and very quiet to now an experienced one, and the ability to build relationships in the workplace and earning respect in the workplace, and therefore for me that then might lead to conversations. I wouldn't walk into my office and suddenly announce the gospel to everyone. It's more I'm working alongside people who I'm building relationships with in my workplace, who then, if I feel that respect is there, I would maybe enter into their lives in a way that I could share my faith. And that's, yeah, I'll finish there. Yeah.
Thank you, thanks. Joe?
Okay. So I think for me, I'm fairly kind of open with my faith at work anyway. When I started, I kind of made quite a conscious decision so I'd moved from a previous firm in Colchester. I made a conscious decision to kind of put, in my bio, about church and about faith. So that was kind of, I guess, the start point, because then you're straight into ultimately a conversation around it. There's not kind of any ambiguity or anything in that regard. But we're quite free to be able to, within our office, it's relatively relaxed, so there is some freedom in being able to share and talk through kind of the gospel with colleagues. Certainly, obviously, I've got, similarly to Lisa, I've got, client kind of rules and things that we've got to adhere to, so there's a different kind of line there, really. But ultimately, I think certainly with certain individuals, it's easier to open up, and certainly going into those meetings, it's great to be able to pray beforehand and know that God is with me and going before me into those places, and hopefully opening up conversation there. So does that answer it?
Is there any specific regulation that stops you from bringing up conversations about faith with clients in this case?
Not specifically to my knowledge. You tell me from your side if that's how that affects you guys. But no, there's nothing kind of ironclad specifically. I think it's just that kind of really, I'll spend sort of 30 years, or I expect to spend 30 years with a client realistically. We're walking them through a long retirement, and that's my expectation. So that's a lot of time to get to know them. But the only reason I have them as a client in the first place is because they trust us, and we build that trust. And so that means maintaining and kind of really guiding them and shepherding them through the professional relationship. But I think really that doesn't completely preclude me from saying, if I feel able to have that conversation with them about the gospel. But time will tell. And like you, I'm not sat here as someone that's an expert at this. Like I have plenty failings. So, yeah.
Thank you. Adi, talking to young people about Christ at work, how does that go? Or generally, are you public about your faith at work?
Yes, I am public about my faith at work. And I think with different schools, there are different kinds of openings and opportunities, and even though there are boundaries, but there are ways in which you can communicate your faith, either with colleagues or with students. Again, I can only give you practical examples of one particular thing that happened. We have a school library that library is full of books, as you can be aware of that. And but the theme of the books points toward occultism, witches, and wizards. And I was a bit uncomfortable with that, so I took the decision to speak to one of the vice principals, just as I just couldn't hold on to the fact that this is happening in the library. And then she told me, the vice principal said, I will investigate it, and to the glory of God, those books have been removed from the library, and we now have better books that really can motivate, inspire kids in the right direction. But what eventually that led to was the vice principal then came to me about 3 weeks before the GCSE exams and said, I would really like you to be, to help lead a voluntary prayer session for the students before the exams in the prayer room. So I did that, and that was the first and the last time I saw the vice principal. So eventually the honors just fell on me to take over the leadership of the prayer gathering. So we have a prayer gathering that is working, that is powerful, and really blesses the school. But it's a gray area. We can't really preach. But since the vice principal led it, I was just fired up to just follow that procedure, and things have begun to happen since then. That was roughly 3 years ago, and the prayer session is still going on fine. Thanks.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Do we have any other sort of views or approaches to faith in the workplace that anyone wants to share? You can share, not us. No, joking. Go ahead. Yes, please go. As a lead to it.
This will be
Interesting.
short. No. No. I think as a link to it, yeah, that's interesting. No, I'll take that challenge on. But right. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I think certainly I do work with some Christian individuals, and so that's a really great place to be and open up that conversation, because that changes the planning that you're doing for them and the way you're helping guide and shepherd them. And naturally they know, you can have that openness of, we know where you're going. You've got, you're secure in that regard. So that's good. But yeah, I'll take on the challenge, Graham. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, please.
Okay, for me, I think I've had a lot of personal experience in a workplace. I noticed that as a Christian, there is this a fear of sharing faith
Yeah.
because of some restrictions placed in workplaces. In the same way, I also noticed that other faiths also share their faith in the same restricted workplaces. So that was my first challenge when I came in. But I was able to, since other faith can share theirs, was able to share mine. That's number one. Then, and behavior also has a lot to do. My own case was that people started coming to me and were asking me. One said in my workplace, "You look like a clergy, you look like a clergy." He was following me around, started asking me questions. I've shared it with the leaders. And he promised to be in one of our services in Chelmsford. So I'm looking up to that, though I'm not working there again. But I notice that people are willing, people are hungry to receive Christ. But fear and restrictions has limited many of us not to share our faith willingly to people. So in our conversation, once I talk with you 1 hour, 2 hours, I'll chip in something about Christ, my faith. Thank you.
I like that, approach of chipping in something, kind of leaving, clues when you are having a conversation with people. And this is generally my approach as well. So to Joe's point, I don't write it like on top of my head, as it were, that I am a Christian, but I make no effort to hide it as well. And I have conversations with people, interactions with people at work. I tend to try to leave these clues. One of the things I do at work is when somebody joins our company, I've done this, I don't know, probably like 60 people. When somebody joins our company for the first time, I have a 45 minutes one-to-one conversation with them. And my approach is always to start with, tell me about you. The question, the way I frame it is like, take me back to the journey that led to little Tom, back at home with dad and mom or whoever, whatever your family background is, to this point. And then I shut up, and many people will go on talking about themselves for 15, 20. The record I have seen, and I kid you not, is 55 minutes. Somebody just keeps going on, and I try not to interrupt. And what I find is when you're interested in people, when you're interested in their journey, sometimes, not always, they will say, what about you? I want the question to come from them. And if they say, tell me about yourself, I'm like, yeah, I got them. I'm a Christian. This is the family structure. I follow Christ. Because they asked. So I find that a useful approach, when you're dealing with people. But we work in an environment today, generally, where speaking about your faith is one of the top 10 things you mustn't do at work. They have a list of things that you shouldn't do at work, and talking about your faith is one of them. Maybe there are even environments where it is strictly forbidden, and that can be a challenge as well. There are work environments, where just being a Christian is challenging because of language, because of the way that people behave. So, it can be quite tough. Is there any broad approach or experiences on the panel in terms of how you navigate the tricky situation at work when it comes to sharing faith?
I think for me, I always seek God first to open the door. Sometimes when it's difficult, even with your colleagues at work, one way of really approaching that is to ask God for open doors. And I have seen open doors like never before. Practically, I really have got instances, so maybe this will help somebody. Prayerfully went to work, and I saw a lady, a foreign language lady that hasn't been at work for, 5-6 weeks because of knee injury. And I just saw her back from work. That's almost 2 weeks to the end of term. So I went open her class door, say, hey, how you doing? I hope all is well, and things like that. Now, we're not supposed to be sharing all of that, but somehow when you have a relationship or you just open to the spirit, really, things begin to happen. And as I spoke to her about how she's feeling, the knee, I hope everything is now cured, she's okay. Something in my spirit felt that she carries a burden. And I said, so after she said, oh, I'm much, much better. And I said to her, are you okay? Are you really okay? And she said, I'm really not okay. I'm a single mom. And I've got my 16-year-old that is really, really in an unhealthy relationship. And I said, oh, well, God is good. Now, we started the whole process of, because it gave me an open door. She gave me her number. She gave me the daughter's name. And I'm trusting that God will touch that daughter and bring healing and wholeness to that family. But people do struggle. But we've got to approach it with prayer as well. Thank you.
Lucy? You? No? Joe?
So for me, I think working, again, probably similar to Ali, working with colleagues and kind of having that relationship built over time helps to then open up those conversations, particularly just a post-weekend, how is it going? Having the opportunity then to, and again, I'm learning in this, to be saying I'm praying for you about that, and being proactive in saying, how's that going, and catching up with them afterwards, is really, I think, just important in just stepping out and just sort of taking that action and showing that, okay, I'm not directly sharing the gospel immediately. I need to walk and learn in doing that, but equally just opening up that kind of that channel really with them. It's really been really, really good, and people are receptive to it. They generally, they will surprise you. They'll be thankful for it. They generally won't tell you not to.
Right.
Yeah, that's been good.
Yeah, I like something Debs shared in our preach. I think it was 2-3 weeks ago. She said, talking about Matthew chapter 5:13-16. She says, identity before activity. So in other words, light is who we are. You are the light of the world. You're a city set upon the hills that cannot be hidden. Christianity isn't what we do, it's who we are. We don't live it here on Sunday morning and then go to work with a different face. It's who we are. And so the approach that you were talking about, which is, I'm a Christian, can I pray for you? To your point, I've asked this after you shared with a colleague who was talking about when people are talking about what's going on in their lives, challenging situation, and I said, can I pray for you? Is that something that someone will turn down and say, no, don't pray for me? Life is difficult, life is challenging, I have challenging, difficult things that I'm going through, but no, keep your prayers to yourself, kind of. Do you see my point? It doesn't sound like an offer that people will or should reject, even if they're not Christians. Do we have any experience in the room? Yes, please.
Sorry, just to move on a bit. You all three of you mentioned about forming relationships with people at work. And when you said that, it reminds me of something said in 1 Corinthians 9 that Paul said, to the weak I become weak, to the weak I become weak to win the weak. I have become all things to all people so that all the possible means I might save some. I do this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share its blessings. How would you do that practically? Like, when I first saw this, I kind of thought like, oh yeah, they're going out. Let's go out with them, just to sort of have a social sort of aspect of it. Do you guys have something similar or different approaches? What do you do with that?
I don't know if this will answer that question. But thinking about, so my preference and the way actually I cope with work sometimes, and I have grown in this, is that I'm very at work mode or home mode. And I come home from work and I don't want to talk about work. And actually being asked to talk about work here is, normally I'm very much work mode, home mode. That's one of the coping, and it sometimes I think is a gift that God's given me to manage the emotional, my capacity for the workload. But I am growing in that, in kind of merging those words, although I don't necessarily want to spend the evenings talking about work to Joel. And again, I'm not sure if this answers your question, John, but I'm learning that my personality preferences aren't above the call that God has on my life. So my preference at work would be to actually, I've got some jobs to do, I've got lots of admin to write up, I just want to get that done because I like to get jobs done, I'm efficient and I want it done. Actually, I've been growing in the area of how can I get alongside this team of people here that God's called me to be amongst every day when I'm in the office. My personality actually sometimes has to come second to that. And that for me is stepping into other people's struggles and weaknesses and being available and thinking about how, how I can represent Jesus in the workplace. Well, Jesus would be pleasant to work alongside someone that is approachable, that can be a good listener, that can take on burdens and encourage others, is my understanding of kind of, I want people to be able to come to me and think, actually, Lucy will give me encouragement. And whether that then leads to me being able to share more about him, but actually being someone that is not closed off and head in the computer, although, yeah, I do have to do that because I have a job to do. It's a balance. But that's just, for me, a personal journey of, and if for any of those, I mean, when I started out as a newly qualified nurse, I was quiet. I couldn't get words out sometimes in the workplace because I just didn't have the confidence to speak sometimes in certain circumstances. So God equips us and grows us in experience. So just for those who feel like, oh, I just don't know what to say. And the other thing, sorry if I'm going on, but being a nurse, I'm surrounded by really caring and compassionate individuals. Like, I'm not surrounded by unkind professionals. Like, they all go the extra mile. They all, do really caring jobs and listen to people well. So how am I different? Well, I'm equipped by the Holy Spirit. So therefore, my personality preferences, like I say, they come second because I'm equipped by him to be strong in my weaknesses. So yeah, I have no idea, John, if that answered your question. But
I
anyway.
love that. Really, really powerful. And you should speak more because you're really good at it. Joe, being weak to help the weak, being all things to all people to save some. Do you have thoughts?
Yeah, on this, and it might sound slightly strange. So when I fail, we all fail in the workplace. We all do something wrong. When I kind of muck up and so there's situations sometimes where I've maybe not spoken to a colleague kind of as kindly as I should have. I'll go and tell, and I generally reflect on it, and it's the next day. So I will go back to them and say, I'm really sorry for how I spoke to you. It really wasn't kind. It really wasn't very loving. Please forgive me. And anyone can do that. Anyone can go and ask for forgiveness. It's not to some degree, it's not a difficult thing to go and say sorry to someone, but to just try and model that love and compassion for people, and that I recognise that I fail, I fall, but actually, and again, is in growing in it, is saying, I'm going back to, pointing back to Jesus, and that's, the reason I can, I will come to you and say sorry and ask for forgiveness is because that's who I'm modelling it, who I'm modelling it on, and who I live for. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, all I like to say is that as a believer, there's one thing that we all need to know, and that is we carry a presence. You carry a presence, and you need to appreciate that for yourself, because when Jesus died for you, there's a grace that has come upon you and I. I'm not saying that we don't make mistakes, we do, but the reality is that you carry a presence, and that presence helps us in our workplace. So being appreciative, being myself, even in my character and the manner of conversation that I have, is able to reflect God's glory. And every means, with every way in which I can relate to somebody and be a help. And that's why, personally, I think over the years, I feel that prayerfully going to work has really helped. As there have been situations whereby things have, even I have regretted. I think if I'm allowed to, should I just
please,
go for it?
please,
Yes.
go for it.
Now, I've got to tell you this, okay? People really, for some reason, I appeal to loads of people, heads of departments, associates. They tell me stories, and I pray with them. I give them advice. Obviously, I've done all of those roles before. I'm just an ordinary teacher now. So they come for advice all the time, and so. But there was this situation, the exam we've just had the exams, September, insert day and all of that stuff. The results were put on the screen, how we did, and the results were great, but 4% below the where we're supposed to be. 78% is what we got. We're supposed to get 82%. Now, this is not pride. My students actually got their results. So we went to departmental meeting, and in that departmental meeting, the associate principal sat up and really gave us a kind of, I don't know. I mean, as a Christian, I was sitting there and said, oh, God, this is too much for me to handle. Give me grace. But I think I lost it, because while she was rebuking us for what we did, and we failed to meet our target, I walked out of the room. I said, I've had enough of this. I just walked out, went to my classroom. And as I sat down in that classroom, the Spirit of God was just hitting me, self-control, patience. And I realized that I really have lost it at that point in time. But somebody walked into my room and said, you know what? One of the colleagues said, you know what, would you like to come back to the meeting? And the Spirit of God said, how would you have handled that differently? You could have approached this lady, have a one-to-one conversation. Particularly, majority of them respect me. So maybe it was that respect. I just said, well, I'll get away with this anyway. And God rebuked me on that, and I have since repented. That was 2 years ago. Thank you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think the thing I can say to this is I miss so many opportunity at work to show being a good Christian. I have been angry at colleagues before, not a few times, spoken, in a way that, doesn't show Christ to people. I have done that before, several times. And what I always come back to is coming back to a place of repentance, personally, in my relationship with God, that matters. But also, apologizing, not just to... I like... This I say I like. I do a lot of apologies to individuals in public, because especially if I had, misstepped in public. I don't want to go back to them at the side and just say to them, I'm sorry about that. I want to make my apology in front of, as many people as possible. And this is a painful personal process. So I have a lot of experience like that where I haven't represented Christ the way I ought to. But the thing that I am fairly confident that my colleagues understand, in my interaction with them is, A, I genuinely care about them. So when I'm talking, on a interaction basis, I am asking them about their spouses, their children, what's going on in their lives, and that my missteps come from a place not of, deliberate heart of people. And one of my biggest fears as a person is, if I profess Christ, do I risk doing something that will make somebody sit and think, oh, and he calls himself a Christian? If I bring my faith to work, if I'm active in the way that I, that I profess my faith, do I risk doing something someday, God forbid, that makes somebody thinks, and he says he's a Christian? So we're all on this journey of faith, of making mistakes, of sharing other people's burden. I find that, the best way to get the gospel, to share the gospel, to witness in the workplace is just being interested in them and in what's going on in their lives and living, living the clues to Christ and not being shy away from the fact that at the end of the day, I am human. I do make mistakes. I do make a lot of mistakes, but also repenting and, apologizing, for those mistakes. So I don't know if that helps, John, but, this is no one's got this all figured out, so to speak. And on that basis, I would like to thank our panel for the incredible work that they've done, sharing their... And I just want to leave us with Colossians chapter 3, verse 16 and 17. Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom through psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Thank you, church. Thank you very much.